The best horror isn't about monsters or body counts. Instead, it's about those terrifying ideas that crawl into your mind and refuse to leave. Ideas that make you question every smile or every odd encounter, or perhaps even every choice you think you've made. And some of those movies, they get pretty dark and pretty deep pretty quickly. So let's have a look at 6 terrifying films, as well as the disturbing philosophies that lurk underneath them. We're starting with a planetary extinction and ending with something hiding in every conversation you've ever had. And by the end, you'll realize that the last one might already be happening to you. Now for each film, I'll give you a spoiler-free taste, the core philosophy that haunts it, and I'll ask that question that'll keep you up awake at 3 AM. Look, each of these films has personally cost me sleep, especially the last one. But if you think I've missed something terrifying, if you think I'm wrong, or even worse, if you think I'm right, then tell me about it in the comments. In the meantime, let's start with something gentle, with the complete extinction of humanity. Picture a beautiful home. It's peaceful, and the couple couldn't be nicer. It's a shame about the neighbours then, who decide to move in and wreck everything. Yes, we kick off with Darren Aronofsky's tense 2017 trip in Mother. It's a gentle allegory for Mother Earth, where we're the neighbours. But things quickly descend into chaos, and Mother, oh, she gets her revenge. Because this unsettling film poses this question. What if we're not the protagonists of the Earth's story, but the infection? This is what in philosophy is called the Gaia hypothesis, meeting eco-horror. Earth isn't a rock we live on. It might be a living organism with an immune system. And the pandemics and climate disasters and the mass extinctions, those might not be accidents. They might be Earth's fever response, trying to burn out the disease, which is us. Watch this film and you'll see humanity not as Earth's children, but as its cancer. And the disturbing part? In 2025, with climate collapse accelerating, this doesn't feel like a metaphor anymore. It's starting to feel a bit like a diagnosis, and that maybe the Earth is trying to get rid of us. But here's the late night question. Is the Earth actually better off without us? The answer maybe yes. But next, if the Earth rejects us as cancer, then what happens if we reject our own morality? Because sometimes, admit it, you just have to press the reset button, even when it comes to our entire civilization. And that's where The Purge comes in, a 2013 film by James DeMonaco where for 12 hours, all crime is legal. Your neighbours, the ones who wave at you every morning, those lovely people, they transform into suburban savages in seconds. And everyone is just looking to survive, perhaps even to get a little bit of revenge on the side.
We're gonna make it through tonight, and everything is gonna be okay.
Nothing is ever going to be okay again.
Now, philosophers have been debating this one for centuries, with Thomas Hobbes arguing that life is nasty and brutish and short, and that without enforcement, ethics evaporate. After watching The Purge, you might agree. In fact, you might agree that the thin line between civilization and chaos isn't morality or goodness, but the inevitability of surveillance and punishment. Because think about blackouts or crises and how quickly the looting can start, or anonymous forums and how vicious people can become when they think they can't be caught. And the dark question of The Purge is this: are you a good person? Or are you just well-trained and afraid of the consequences? And if society's rules are gone, then next we'll see what happens when trust itself dies. It's a classic for a reason. The master, John Carpenter's 1981 movie, The Thing, that takes paranoia and the horror that follows to the next level. Because Antarctic researchers face a shapeshifter that perfectly mimics anyone. It's from outer space, it might be anyone, it's pissed, and whatever it wants can't be good. So who can you trust? And who will survive? Where The Purge was a collapse on a societal level, this one is much more personal and much more cold-hearted. This is in philosophy what we call the classic prisoner's dilemma. There's the hard but hateful rules of game theory behind all of this, where you've got no choice but to maximise your chances of survival through making cold, hard-headed choices. And there's the dawning realisation that maybe you can't count on anyone but yourself. That even if it is a human being right next to you, they might turn, and they're definitely out for only themselves. Because cooperation requires trust, and trust requires identity verification. So it's a world of perfect imposters where paranoia isn't irrational. It's the only rational response because cooperation requires trust, and that trust requires identity verification. But when your identity can't be verified, well, that cooperation becomes evolutionary suicide. It's the prisoner's dilemma on steroids, and the stakes are species survival. And the disturbing part of this selfish philosophy is that we're kind of racing to that bottom really quickly, with misinformation, with deepfakes, with AI, with catfish, ensuring that we can't trust anything anymore. We might be living in the Thing's brilliant nightmare already. And after the credits roll, we're left with the haunting question: can we survive in a society where no one trusts anyone? But maybe the hard face of the other isn't what we should truly fear. In our next film, maybe it's their smile. Yes, because the films so far are tame compared to Ari Aster's 2019 acid trip that is Midsummer, where a grieving woman finds belonging in a Swedish commune after the most horrible of tragedies, and discovers that this commune has some disturbing rituals which she might not have much of a choice to participate in.
I was most excited for you to come.
Because Midsummer asks whether there's an individual price to be paid for that communal smile, and that maybe being welcomed in with open arms should be a bit of a warning sign. Because all of that happiness might require suffering, or worse. And even in the perfect commune, the burden of that suffering isn't necessarily shared equally. And the movie gets even more twisted. Perhaps the philosophical dagger to the heart is that this cult seems obvious. There are red flags everywhere, but the ones that tend to grow up around us in the real world might not be. Whether it's the corporate culture and the work family, but the unpaid overtime they demand of you, or the online mobs that are out for blood, or the cults of personality that more and more people seem willing to worship at any price. The philosophical question here is one of the oldest and hardest. Can sacrificing individuals for the greater good ever be justified? And what happens when you're the sacrifice? So that's 4 deeply disturbing movies and philosophies down, with 2 to go. I'm certain you've already had thoughts and objection, which is great. Pop them in the comments below. I'll be there arguing with you. And like, hype, and subscribe, of course, if you're enjoying this, because the only thing more terrifying than these films is the YouTube algorithm. Although here's the next unsettling thought, because whether you've done that or not, did you ever have a choice? Yes, death comes for us all, and you can't escape it. But what if it's worse than that? What if we lived in the world of James Wong's 2000 roller coaster ride, Final Destination? Because you can run, you can hide, you can fight, but it doesn't matter. The universe runs like clockwork, and your time is up. The characters in this film escape what was always meant to happen, and we find out whether it inevitably catches up to them.
In death, there are no accidents, no escapes.
And that's a pretty philosophical experiment, because the film is hard determinism visualized. The argument that every choice you make was determined by the choice before it, stretching all the way back to the Big Bang. Free will? Well, that's just the story we tell ourselves while physics does its thing. It's being trapped by reality. It's being a passenger with no say in anything that's happening. And it might be written into the very rules of reality. And here's the 3 a.m. existential crisis. How do we live with ourselves, knowing that we're passengers, not drivers? And is determinism a relief from responsibility, or is it the ultimate kidnapping? But that's nothing compared to our next film, because the forces pulling the strings, they're indifferent to us. But what if they weren't? Yes, could it be anything else? It's Jordan Peele's instant 2017 classic, Get Out, which has just about every philosophical terror in it you can imagine. A boyfriend finally gets to meet his rich girlfriend's family, and they couldn't be nicer. The smiles are as wide as you can imagine, and everything is such a relaxing comfort. So don't go poking around the house too much, and definitely do not try to discover whether lying behind that wonderful kindness is a secret agenda.
Get out.
Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
It's a classic horror trope, but here Peele takes it to new levels, asking whether care can be weaponized, whether an individual can be colonized, whether someone may be pulling the strings without you even noticing it. And Get Out reveals the ultimate horror, kindness as colonization. It's an instrumental benevolence that will have you asking for months, hey, is this person being nice to me because they want to take something from me? And what if the thing they want to take is your very self? And I can't say any more without spoiling what is a fantastic, horrifying movie. See it and then desperately try to unsee it at your peril. And definitely don't ask whether this video is sharing ideas or planting insidious seeds. Because as Get Out shows, you'll never really know. So, 6 films, 6 completely different horrors, and many disturbing philosophies beneath them. But if you're lying awake at 3 AM, haunted by these questions, what do? Well, watch more of our videos, of course. But the reason why is because of philosophy and what it fundamentally does. Philosophers have been arguing about all of these terrifying ideas for centuries, and just as convincing as the worst case may be that there's always an argument against them too, and some of them are really good arguments. And knowing the philosophies and the arguments that lead to these dark conclusions also lets us fight against them, seeing the signs, choosing differently, and dismantling systems that make them possible. Except, you know, the hard determinism of the universe, that one might be baked in. Yes, philosophy is full of horrors, but also full of weapons against them, and that's what we do here. We face the darkness head on in films, in books, and in everything in between. So tell me if any of these films have tweaked your interest, and if you'd like to see a longer video on them. And tell me all the stuff I got wrong. I love it. But until next time, be wise, be kind, and sleep tight.